It's a show up early and leave late mindset. I want to be the first one there and the last one to leave. That's true for anything. These kids, they really wanted to put in that extra work. And they were coming to off-season practices, consistently getting better and adding to our repertoire and putting new tools in our toolbox. It was just a different mindset.
Welcome back to the Eagle Eye Wrestling Show. I'm Maura Pemberthy, and today I'm joined by
James Opitz. Today's episode, we have returning to the nest, Travis Laxton, a former Niceville Eagles wrestling coach. Big shout out to Coastal Accounting for sponsoring today's episode. Welcome to the Eagle Eye Wrestling Show. We have Coach Travis with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm Travis Laxton. I was the head wrestling coach at Niceville High School from 2016, 2017 season. And after that season, came to South Walton and have been the wrestling coach here for the last 8 seasons. So I've been in the area quite a while. Before that, was coaching college wrestling up at Coker University as a Division II school.
What got you into wrestling?
Well, wrestling's always been a family sport for us. My dad, David Laxton, was the head wrestling coach at Swanee High School for 35 years. I grew up wrestling from the age of 5. My brother, Lee Laxton, started at the age of 3. Both of our older cousins wrestled. One was a 3-time Alabama state champion. The other one was a 4-time Alabama state champion. My dad, my uncle, both wrestled in Alabama at Troy State and then at Auburn, which was a Division I school back in the day before the SEC cut wrestling. But for the most part, it's been a generational thing for us. My sister, her son, his name is Edison Page. He'll be coming up through the Hive program over in Jacksonville, which they do a really good job with their youth kids, and he turns 5 in February. So he's been wrestling since he was 4. I think the key to winning championships is honestly just getting kids started as early as possible.
So about your wrestling career, what have you achieved through what did you achieve during your time wrestling?
Quite a bit. Let's see. Before high school, I won 8 youth state championships in the Sunshine State Games, which was, Florida's big freestyle folk style Greco state tournament they used to have down in Lakeland all the time, and they would bounce around Fort Lauderdale some. So we wrestled a lot of USA wrestling. Let's see, 2 middle school state championships, North Florida's championships, and was second once. And then got into high school, placed 3rd my freshman year, the FHSAA state tournament, 3rd my sophomore year, and then won state titles my junior and senior year. My junior year, I won the Russ Mauger Mental Attitude Award, which is basically the state's, recognition for most outstanding wrestlers, the best thing that I can compare it to, which is voted on by coaches and wrestlers alike at the state tournament. I won that in 2009, won a second state title in 2010, wrestled 4 years at Division II college up in South Carolina called Newberry College. Graduated from there with a bachelor's in psychology. Had a year of eligibility left, so I popped over to Coker University, which is the same conference. It was the SAC, South Atlantic Conference at the time. I'm not sure what it is now. Popped over to the SAC, in same conference, and to Coker University, and then qualified for the NCAA tournament in 2014, 2015 era. So, which was a really awesome experience, man. I'm glad that wrestling has led me through several different avenues. Got to achieve a lot through wrestling. I had a high school record of 151 wins, 7 losses. It's been a journey, It's been a journey. Over 30 some odd tournament championships throughout the season. So it was a good run. I enjoyed it.
You wrestled for such a long time. Did you ever struggle with burnout or anything?
Yeah, I have struggled with some burnout, and burnout comes and goes. But honestly, and I tell people this all the time, first of all, if you're going to wrestle, you got to be a little mentally unstable. So it's important to just remember why you do it. Wrestling is not built for everybody. We often confuse, wrestling slogan, everybody can wrestle. So BODY, like any types of people, any person, any size, any shape, any color, doesn't matter. Wrestling is non-biased as long as you work hard and you're putting in the time and the effort and embracing the grind, then you'll be good. But it's the mental aspect that really gets you through. So when you're talking about burnout, I mean, kids go through this all the time. I think it's important to build in rest. Wrestling athletics in general have evolved from going from multi-sport athletes, which I was a multi-sport athlete, all the way up into middle school. I played football, baseball, wrestling, track, cross country, and weightlifting. When I got into high school, I narrowed it down to wrestling was my main sport. After wrestling season was over, I went into track and pole vaulting, and then I was also on the weightlifting team. So just changing the scenery is huge for kids. The biggest thing that I could push parents to do is, one, be a parent, don't be a coach. Let your coaches do your job. And two, I would encourage parents to stick their kids in as many sports as possible. Not just for wrestling burnout in general, but for any sport burnout. You're going to see this all the time. And it's what pushes kids away from the sports in general. I think it's important to give them breaks, but I also think it's important to associate fun with whatever sport that they're going to be in. So take wrestling, for example. We have to travel a lot for wrestling. Sometimes you're spending 4 or 5 hours car ride over there to Alabama or to South Florida or to Central Florida or to the East Coast of Florida. You get there and you spend all day in a gym and then you come home. That doesn't make for a lot of fun, like especially if you're getting your crap kicked out of you for, a couple of days. But what I would say is take an extra day. Like, spend the night on that Saturday night, go to the theme park on Sunday, associate some kind of fun with wrestling because it's strenuous, it's hard, it's long, the days are long, and you've got to be able to find some balance. So if you're looking for a good balance to combat burnout, I think that those 3 things that I listed are key.
Well, you were talking about how you have to separate parents try to act as coaches and try to separate that. How was it having your father as a coach and also trying to separate him as a coach and your father?
Oh, it was pretty easy. Actually. Not so much for my brother, but for me it was a lot easier because I would put in effort. My brother would put in effort, whatever it was to the sport or whatever was needed to the sport. If my father wanted to talk wrestling, I don't want to talk wrestling. Let's go do something else. We'll go hunting, go fishing, go to the beach. I grew up on a cattle ranch, so we would go work out on the ranch, whatever. We didn't talk wrestling at the house. We didn't watch film at the house. I didn't. My brother, he likes film. I never liked film. So it was easy for me, to compartmentalize wrestling and family because I was always doing something else. It didn't bother me that he was my coach. Now, in the room, it's sometimes a little difficult because it's not, I wasn't calling him coach, I was calling him dad, and everybody else is calling him coach. And it's, you have to learn to take a cussing with a grain of salt, to be honest, because more is expected of you when you are the coach's kid than when you're not. For example, we were headed to practice one day. We get there, we're running 10 minutes late. I'm riding with my dad. Everybody else is there. We're 10 minutes late. And he looks at me and he goes, "Go run. You're 10 minutes late." But I'm riding with you, dude. You drove me here. You go run. No, if I had a choice, I'd have been on time. But it wasn't the case. You just have to, you accept it. You go, yep, same rules apply. Go run. So, not everybody can drive, especially when you're in high school. So when you get into high school, you're like, yeah, I have no control over what time I get here. Dad gets off at 4, practice starts at 4:15. What do you want me to do? That kind of thing. I never had that problem. My dad worked at the school. We just walked to the practice room, and it was easy for me. But summer practices, we only ran 3 practices a week. Don't be late, So I had a pretty well balanced life, I think, when it came to athletics and family life. It wasn't too bad trying to differentiate the two. It made it really easy on me. My brother, on the other hand, I want to say that my brother loved having my dad as a coach, but it was more difficult for him to compartmentalize. I guess that's where we differed, because I know I was never one to hold a grudge. Oh, you yelled at me in practice, I'm going to be ticked off about it at home. That wasn't my case.
What was it like coaching Niceville's last boys state champion and then the first ever girls state placer at Niceville?
It was enjoyable, fun, exciting. All of these words pop into your brain when you're talking about that season. We had an 18-3 dual meet record that year. So I really had an exceptional team. We had about 36 kids on the roster, and obviously, not everybody's going to get to wrestle varsity, but we were popping kids in and out of the varsity lineup all the time, and everybody just really stepped up and did their job, and that was awesome. I'm talking about from our freshman 106 at the time, Lee Hamilton, all the way up to our heavyweights. It was an exceptional team. The kids made it easy. It made it easy for me to come in and coach. And now you got to remember that I was coming straight from a grad assistant position over at Coker University. So I was fired up. The kids were fired up, and it made it super. It made it a super easy transition. I wasn't as old as I am now. It was almost 10 years ago, if you think about it. 2016, so 9 years ago. Will be 9 years ago. When I came in, I would still wrestle live with all of my kids. So I'd bounce around the room, we'd wrestle live, and the kids that you're talking about were really the core of the team. You had Emma Allsbrook, who was actually a 2-time third placer, and this was right before the FHSAA fully adopted girls wrestling. So this was a huge, huge impact, trying to get girls to come out. She was just tough as nails. I think she just got married this past year too. So if you hear this, Emma, congratulations. I haven't talked to you in a while, but congratulations. She was an exceptional kid. She came in, just a real nose to the grindstone type girl, like wanted to get the job done, was not worried about how you look or how everybody else was thinking. She just went out there and just grinded, and it was awesome. She was aggressive. She was everything that you would want in a wrestler, and so she was really, really awesome to coach. Her mom was super supportive. I can tell you, her mom and I had several conversations about the direction that she was going, and maybe Air Force, maybe military, going into college, whatever she wanted to do. Her mom supported, and so I think that just, one, having the support, and two, her work ethic just made her an exceptional wrestler. Our boys team, they were tough as nails. So the starting four, you had state qualifier, state placer. So those three kids, you're looking at Lee Hamilton, Dominic Cirillo, and Zach Hartzog. Then you had, you jump into the middleweights there, and you had Bailey Howes, who was actually the first region champ in probably 9-10 years when I got there. So he actually won the region. Then you move up to 160-pound weight class, and you had Jack Johnson. And Jack wound up actually being a state champ that year. So to talk a little bit about his run, Paul Hartzog, who has been a huge supporter of Niceville High School wrestling. Both of his sons wrestled there, Blake and Zach. Blake was a 2 or 3-time state qualifier. Zach was a 2-time state qualifier and a 4th placer, and was an exceptional wrestler. Still, to this day, the only high school wrestler that's taken me down in a practice. So I'll give that shout out to him too. Jack can't claim that, so you keep that in mind. And remember, I wrestled with all of them. So Paul brought me down here, gave me a call. He's like, hey, I really want you to come coach these guys. I think you're going to have a great team. And we did. We had a phenomenal team. And we get there, we're working out, and I'm wrestling through some of these kids, and we get to Jack, and Jack is 6'1", 6'2", 160 pounds, lean, lanky, and I was like, well, he had really good fundamental wrestling, and we started wrestling, and I just watched him progress from the first 4 or 5 summer practices all the way out throughout the season, and he was just crushing kids. And then we ran into a kid from Lincoln, and that kid was just an exceptional athlete. You know how you have those kids that are good at everything? This kid was like, and you hate like playing against them, but you love when they're on your team because you know you're going to win, right? Like, oh, this, I don't have to worry about it because this kid, he's good at everything. So we're going to pick him first every time. Like, he was one of those kids. His name was Justin Grant. And so Jack had wrestled Justin at the Capital City Classic. We lost in the finals. The score was 3-1, right? So we see him again later on in this season at another tournament, and the score is 1-1. The kids go into overtime, and we lose a takedown in overtime, 3-1, and then we go into the region finals, and we lose again. Oh man, so Jack winds up placing, I want to say it was third. Winds up placing third, and we wind up on a really crappy side of the bracket at the state tournament. So Jack has, let's see, the first match he wrestles the number 5 kid in the state, the ranked number 5 kid in the state. He beats him pretty soundly. We had a good day. He beats him pretty soundly. We move into the quarters. And then he has the number 3 kid in the state, okay, a kid from Riverdale. We wind up beating this kid, never in any real danger. Well, in the morning, we have the number 1 ranked kid in the state, right? And this kid is just a hammer. And the score is tied. We wound up on the opposite side of the bracket from the Lincoln kid, who we've been losing to all season. Score's tied with this kid. So if we lose, we're going to cross bracket and catch this other kid, the Lincoln kid, on the opposite side of the bracket. So I'm, in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, we've got to win this match. So we go in, and we've been working this underhook series. I mean, constantly, and just chain wrestling off of this underhook series. So we're hitting one move, that move doesn't work, we go right to the next one, right to the next one, right to the next one. It was just an interesting set that we had going that we've been using all season long. I mean, just really killing kids with. And so we wind up hitting this underhook series. The kid gets called for stalling. And so they hit him for stalling. The score's, I think, 2-1. We're up 2-1. And we wind up, the kid gets an escape or something in the third period, scores 2-2, and then we go back down, and they wrestle through. Well, we get to sudden victory right out, which, if you don't get up, you lose. So obviously we stand up and we win this match by a point. It was awesome match, and the excitement, everybody's watching, because this is an unranked, it's an unranked kid from Niceville. Nobody knows this kid. He was a state qualifier last year, went 0-2. Nobody knows him. So it was a real, true Cinderella story. Well, the Lincoln kid on the opposite side of the bracket, he gets beat in the semis by the kid from Fort Myers. Edwards was his name, the kid from Fort Myers. And so we come in, and he's ranked 4th in the state, and we're like, oh my gosh. So we picked up an easier matchup for us, and I mean, we just straight worked this kid in the finals on the road to a state title, and it was honestly like a true Cinderella moment. It was something special, something really special.
I was just gonna ask, what was different, or what do you think was different about the training that led up to those matches, and what do you think was different about their mindset that allowed them to reach as far as they did?
Honestly, it's a show up early and leave late mindset. I want to be the first one there and the last one to leave. And, that's true for anything that you want to do. If you're willing to put in that extra work, and these kids, they really wanted to put in that extra work. And they were coming to off-season practices. Even when I moved away, they were coming and training with me, and we were consistently getting better and adding to our repertoire and putting new tools in our toolbox. And it was just a different mindset. These were kids that loved to learn about wrestling. They didn't just love to wrestle. There's a big difference. They wanted to learn about the sport. They really wanted to embrace everything that it had to offer. Okay? And when you really become a true student of the sport, that's when you're at your best. Is when you can look at a coach tells you, hey, you might want to try this, this, and this. And sometimes in your brain you go, yeah, I'm not doing that. That sounds stupid. Or I'm going to look dumb doing that. Don't, because the reason that they're sitting in the corners, they see the big picture, and you guys see the narrow window. So when you're looking at it, I mean, take the big picture. Hey, hit this, this, and this. And, I had those kids that would listen. There were several times where I would be able to coach them from the corner through a position. And these kids would listen, they execute without hesitation, they didn't question it, and they won. And when you can learn to give and receive advice humbly, that's when you'll be your best. That's the mindset. Become a true student of the game. Learn everything you can.
All right.
Well, I was just wanted to ask, like, do you think there's something that really makes you stand out as a coach? So when you look at other coaches and you just wonder, is there a big difference of your coaching to from other coaches?
I don't think so. Wrestling has all the same moves. Every style is going to be different. I could tell you that, Clay High School is going to have a different style of wrestling than South Walton High School is. Suwanee High School is going to have a different style of wrestling than Niceville High School is. It's just, I know the same moves as everybody else does. It's how I set them up and how I implement them and how I chain wrestle to those setups and to those new positions that keeps me in the game. What I will say is that as far as my coaching style or coaching habits that build winners, I would say, 1, I think that you have to build a relationship off of trust. 2, you lead by example. So again, I still wrestle with my kids. I'm still in there doing the same workouts they're doing. I think it's important that they see that I'm grinding just as hard as they are, because if I take a day off, they think it's okay to take a day off, and that's not okay. Not if you want to be a winner. And I think relationship building is important. You have to be able to trust who's coaching you, and you have to be able to lean on them when you need anything, really. I still have wrestlers that call me today and are like, hey, coach, what do you think about this situation? It has nothing to do with wrestling, but it's always good to take the perspective from someone here and may have this position on the topic and someone over here that has this position on the topic. You combine the two and you get the best of both worlds. So I think it's important to take as many opinions, as many free thinking opinions as you can, and pick the best ones that work for you and run with them. And don't let anybody tell you can't.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think we all really enjoyed hearing your, opinions on everything. And
yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for having me. And, we'll look forward to seeing y'all's new program. I heard, Coach Cone, he was saying that you guys were going to be pretty tough. So we'll just have to test the metal.
See you, Coach. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care.